Welcome to the Beginner's Guide to Microsoft Excel by WA Courses. In this tutorial, we'll be going over some basic terminology that's used in Excel, how to use a template, the Excel layout, how to enter data, and some basic tools. Now, what exactly is Excel? Excel is a spreadsheet program. We use it to create reports that need calculations and charts. So let's begin. You can open up Microsoft Excel by clicking on the Start menu down here and scroll down until you find Excel. Click on it and this window pops up. If you plan on using Excel frequently, it would be a good idea to pin the program down here to your taskbar. Let's close this window down and see how it's done. Go to the Start menu once again, scroll down till you find Excel, click on it and drag it down to the taskbar. Now it's pinned down here to the taskbar, and all I need to do to open it up is click on the icon. Now you can see here some options that I have. I can open up a blank workbook, or I can work with a template. Now, templates are great time savers, so let's take a quick look at them. You see here how many kinds of different templates there are. Calendars, personal monthly budgets, more calendars, weekly chore schedule, household monthly budget, and so on. So let's just take a quick look at one. Let's choose weekly chore schedule. Click on it and click on Create. You see now that it's downloading the template from the cloud because it was not installed in my computer already. And here it is, weekly chore schedule. Of course, I can just click and make any necessary changes. So by clicking on the date, I can just change the date. By clicking on the tasks and entering something new, I can change all this data. When I'm done, I could go to the File tab and either save it by clicking on Save As, or print it by clicking on Print. I also have the option of exporting it to a PDF. For now, let's close this down, open up Excel again, and start with a blank workbook. Now, an Excel file, as we have already mentioned, is called a workbook. The default title is Book 1. Here we have the tabs: File, Home, Insert, Page Layout, Formulas, Data, Review, View, and Help. Below the tabs, we have what is called a ribbon. Each time you click on a new tab, we have a new ribbon. The Page Layout ribbon, the Formulas ribbon, and so on. Each ribbon is then divided into groups. So in the Home tab, this is the Clipboard group, this is the Font group, the Alignment group, and it goes on. This sheet, which is called Sheet 1, is divided into columns. The columns are named by letters: column A, column B, column C, column D, and it goes on. Our rows are named by numbers: row number 1, row number 2, row number 3, and it goes on. This box right here is called the name box. So right now, my current cell is the cell A3, which means it's in column A, row 3. This cell is C5, in column C, row 5. Down here is the status bar. Now from the status bar, we can zoom in and zoom out. Also, on the left side of the status bar, we can see the current mode. So now we are in ready mode, which means nothing is being entered or edited on the spreadsheet. The enter mode, if this said enter, is when you are doing data entry. So let's just start typing. And you see now it went to enter mode. Then we have the edit mode, when I would be editing the contents of the current cell. Edit mode. Let's delete that. Now, how can we navigate between cells? Let's start from cell A1. To move downward, I can hit enter on my keyboard. Enter, and it goes one cell down. To move back up, I can click Shift plus enter. Shift plus enter, and it goes back up. To move right, I hit the tab key on the keyboard. Tab, tab, tab. To go back left, I hit Shift plus tab. I can also use the arrow keys to go down, right, up, and left. Now, if I were in cell F6 and I wanted to move back to the first column, I could hit the home button on the keyboard. And it goes back to the first column, but the same row. Let's go back to F6. If I wanted to move to the beginning of the worksheet, so if I wanted to move back to cell A1, I could press Control plus Home on the keyboard. And we are back at the beginning of the worksheet. Now, let's take a look at the most useful tools that we can find up here in the ribbon. First of all, on the Home tab, in the Clipboard group, we have the Cut, Copy, and Paste. In the Font group, to change our font settings, our font size, bold, italics, underline, we can also change the border settings from here. For example, if I have selected this cell and I wanted to use some borders, I can choose from here, click on it, and now you can see we have a border there. Now I can undo this action by clicking up here. This is the undo button. By clicking on it, Excel will undo my last action. You can see the borders are now gone. We can also highlight text, change font color from the font group. Next, we have the alignment group. How you want your text to be aligned in the cell. So we have left, center, right. This is the horizontal alignment. Up here, we have the vertical alignment. Top, center, or bottom. Let's try one of these. Let's type something in. Hello. It is aligned to the left. I can align it in the center or to the right. Let's align it in the center. And then vertically, I can align it center, bottom, or top. It doesn't really change anything right now because my font fits exactly in the cell. Also in the alignment group, we have the orientation. So what orientation do I want my text to have? Angle clockwise, this way, or vertical, and so on. Let's undo. Now, a very interesting tool right here is the wrap text. So let's continue writing something in my cell. Hello world. Now you see that it doesn't really fit in the cell. By choosing wrapped text, it displays the contents on multiple lines, but conserving the column's width. Another tool that you will very often use is the merge and center. So imagine that I wanted to have a title in my first row. Beginner's Guide to Excel. And I would like this to be my title. Now, it seems as though my data has gone into column B and column C, but this is not the case. My data is in column A. I would like my title to take up all of these cells, from column A to column H. So I would like it to be centered here in the middle of all these cells. Basically, I want one very long cell here. By clicking on the Merge and Center tool here in the alignment group, that's exactly what I will get. So all of these columns have turned into one. All of these cells merged and my text got aligned in the center. Now, you see in the ribbon here, in some groups, there is a little launch button down here in the corner. Not in all of the groups, but in some of them. What exactly are these launch buttons? By clicking on a launch button, let's click the alignment settings. A window pops up with all the tools that are available in this particular group, in the alignment group. So these tools may not all be visible here in the ribbon because they do not fit. By clicking on the launch button, I have access to all the tools available in this group. Now, let's talk about cell structures. There are a set number of cells within a Microsoft Excel worksheet. As you insert and delete structures, you are not reducing the number of cells, merely shifting where your data lies on the defined worksheet. How can we make new cells, columns, and rows? From the Home tab, in the Cells group down here, we have Insert, Delete, and Format Cells. So this cell right here is selected. Let's see what happens when I click the little arrow here on Insert. Insert cells. This window pops up asking me what I'd like to do. Would I like to shift the cells to the right? Would I like to shift them down? Would I like an entire row or an entire column? Let's leave it as is. Shift cells down. Okay, and you see my new cells have been created the same size as my chosen cell right here. Now, how would we insert a column? We would choose a column by clicking on the column letter and then again insert. We could click Insert Sheet Columns. And there we have it, another column. I could also insert 2 or 3 or 4 columns. How would I do this? I would choose 3 columns. So I would like to insert 1, 2, 3 more columns. Again, insert sheet columns. 3 new columns have been added. Now, if I want to add entire rows, for example, I would like to add another row. I would select a row, go to Insert, and Insert Sheet Rows. There we have another row. Or from the Insert button again, I could choose Insert Cells, which will do exactly the same thing. Again, if I would like to add 2 or 3 rows, I would select 1, 2, 3 rows and then tell Excel to insert rows. 3 rows were inserted. Now, how can I delete cells? It's practically the same thing. So let's choose these 2 columns. We would go to the cells group and choose delete this time. Delete cells or delete sheet columns. Delete sheet columns. It deleted 2 columns. The same goes for rows. So let's delete all of these rows. Delete, delete rows. There we have it. Another way to delete is by right-clicking. So let's right-click on here and press delete. This box pops up asking us what we want to do. Let's delete the entire row. We can also use this right-click menu to insert. Again, the insert box will pop up asking us what we need to do. Cancel. Now, let's talk about the cell's size. You cannot resize just one cell. For example, cell A1. If I want to make it wider, I would go right here between the columns until I see a double arrow, click and drag to make it longer or shorter. Now you see that this has affected the entire A column, not just cell A1, of course, because they are dependent, all the cells in this column. The same goes when I want to adjust the height of a cell. So I would go here between the rows until I see a double arrow, click and drag to adjust the height. But you see that this has now affected the entire row, not just the first cell. Now let's start working on our first workbook. Now this here is sheet 1. I could add another sheet. For example, one sheet could be customers and another sheet suppliers. I can add another sheet by clicking on the plus sign here. Now I can also rename my sheets by right-clicking and from the list choose Rename. So let's name this Customers. And let's rename sheet 2, Rename Suppliers. Okay, now let's work on our customer sheet. Right here in cell A1, I would like a title. So, customers. Now, by hitting enter, I would go down. I want to leave a blank line, so I will hit enter again. Now I want some titles. So my first title, number. Now to go to the cell that's on the right, I would hit tab on my keyboard. There we are. Surname and tab. First name, tab to go to the right. Address. Balance, tab and date. I have my titles. So now that I have my titles, I can move on to the next row and begin entering my data. So number 1, we'll start with number 1. And tab, surname, Smith. First name, George. Address, 12 King Street. And balance. Now here we need a currency symbol. So we could go to the Insert tab and click on Symbols and Symbols. We have a choice from all of these. So I would like the currency euros. Click, Insert and Close. Here it is. So balance 1,245 euros, tab and date 24/04/2020. And we can continue inserting all the rest of our data. Okay, so now I have completed my data entry into my customers sheet. All I need to do now is format my sheet. So, customers is a title. I would like it to spread across all of these cells until column F. I can do that by selecting the cells, going to the Home tab, and choosing the Merge and Center button. Okay, so now it looks like a title. It's in the center and it has merged all of those cells. Let's change the font size. Alright, and let's make it bold. Let's also change the color from here. And my title is ready. Another thing I'd like to do now is resize my cells because all the data is not visible, as you can see here. So look, it's not all visible. Let's resize our cells. We can do this by going here between two columns. until you see a double arrow, click and drag. There is a much easier way to do this. Let's go in between two columns again, double arrow, and double click. Notice that the size of the cells has adapted so that all the data is visible. I can continue doing this with the rest of the columns until all the columns are completely visible. So between the columns and double click. And you can see now that everything is visible. So let's continue formatting. I can select the title row by clicking right here on row number 3 and change that to bold by clicking on the bold button. I can also align them as I like. So let's align them in the center. And now I want all of these cells that I am selecting to be aligned on the left. There we go. I want the rest of the cells that I am selecting now to be aligned in the center. Okay. Now let's add some borders. I will select all of the cells because I want my borders all around. And from the font group, go to the borders button, click on the little arrow and choose a border. All borders, and there it is. Let's also adjust the height of my title right here. I do that by going right here on the left side between the two rows, click and drag. There. Now it looks much better. Now let's talk about the difference between clicking on a cell and clicking into a cell. Clicking on a cell by just clicking once would put me into ready mode, as you can see down here, which means that I can start typing here, but whatever I type will replace what's already there. So let's enter John. You see that it has replaced George. Now clicking into a cell by double clicking puts me into edit mode, which means I can edit the data that is in here. You can even see the cursor, so I can edit this without fully replacing it. So let's type in Jonathan and enter, and it is saved. That was the end of the beginner's guide to Microsoft Excel. Thank you for watching.